Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. For today's 5 on Friday, I'm going to talk to you about 5 historical fictions that are not set during World War II. First up is The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is an adult sci-fi historical fiction. In the early 1950s, a meteor hits the east coast of the United States and wipes out a large part of it. Some scientists quickly realize that Earth is going to become uninhabitable, so the space program is rapidly accelerated. We follow Elma York, who is a former WASP pilot and mathematician. She is one of the people who is working towards putting man on the moon. She begins to question why women can't also go to space, and the book kind of evolves from there, with them trying to get man on the moon and her pushing for women to be given the same opportunity as men. I thought this was such a cool and intriguing premise. I like kind of alternate histories. One of the things I loved most about this book is that it sucked me in from the very first line. The very first sentence of this book had me hooked, and I just could not put it down once I started reading. The second book I'm going to talk to you about is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This book is set in Alaska in the mid-70s. We follow 13-year-old Lenny as her and her family move to Alaska following her father's return from being a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. He is not the same man who left, as what happened to him haunts him. Lenny and her mother know that while danger lurks in the Alaskan wilderness, it also exists in their house due to Lenny's father. Kristen Hanna does a really great job at really making you feel for the characters that you're reading about. And in The Great Alone, this is no exception. This is an extremely difficult read, as Lenny's father is suffering PTSD. Obviously, back in the 70s, people didn't know about it, or it wasn't diagnosed as such, but he is definitely suffering what we would now call PTSD, and it has a profound effect on Lenny's life. Kristen Hanna also does a great job at bringing to life the Alaskan wilderness and making you feel like you're really there alongside Lenny and her family. The third book I'm going to talk to you about is Olivia Twist by Lori Langdon. This is a young adult retelling. So basically, this is an Oliver Twist retelling. In this book, we follow Olivia, who used to live on the streets pretending to be a boy. She is taken in by her uncle and is now part of high society. While there, she ends up crossing paths with Jack, a boy she knows from her past. Jack is currently working with a high society lady to help rob her other high society members blind. When he crosses paths with Olivia, she seems familiar, but he can't place from where. Now, I've never read Oliver Twist, so I don't know how close this story resembles that, but I really loved Olivia, and I just thought she was such a great protagonist, and I liked Jack trying to figure out who she was and where he knew her from. And I liked seeing Olivia struggle with her current day life and how that kind of is now being intertwined with the life she used to have. The fourth book I'm going to talk to you about is Jefferson Sons by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I've seen this classed as both YA and middle grade, so I'm not really sure which category it falls in, but I would say that maybe it's later middle grade, early YA. So in this story, we follow the slave children of Thomas Jefferson. It is told in 3 points of view, 2 of which are Jefferson's children who are slaves, and one of which is another slave boy who lives on Jefferson's estate. We get to see what life is like for Jefferson's kids and what their relationship with their father was like. I thought this book was absolutely fascinating to get a peek into what it must have been like to be one of Jefferson's kids, but you're not really considered his family because that's not how it worked back then. But you're obviously treated in some ways different to the other slaves that he has on his estate, and seeing them kind of struggle with that reality and seeing the differences in how their father treats them versus how he treats his other kids, and even how their siblings treat them. It was just a really fascinating look into what life was like for them. And the fifth book I'm going to talk to you about is The Diviners by WWII. This is a young adult paranormal fantasy historical fiction. So this is set in the 1920s, and we follow Evie, who has a very interesting ability. If she holds an object, she can sometimes get a reading off of the object and find out more about the person who owns it. Evie is sent to live with her uncle in New York City, and he runs a museum that is full of mysterious items and like oddities. He is called in to help with a murder investigation. A woman has been found with an odd mark branded into her skin, and Evie ends up tagging along, and she wonders if she can use her ability to help figure out what happened to this girl. Evie isn't the only person that point of view we get in this book. There are others, and they also have some interesting abilities, though they're different from Evie's. I could not read this book at night. Like, it definitely has a pretty decent creep factor. I mean, granted, I'm a complete wuss, so I mean, maybe if you're into creepy books and horror books, it wouldn't bother you. But for me, I was definitely like, yep, nope, can't read this at night. I don't want to have nightmares. So I definitely think it did well on the like paranormal aspect. And obviously, I really enjoyed that Evie and the others had these unique abilities, as it definitely added to the intrigue of the novel. I also really liked the setting, like the 1920s in New York City is a very fascinating time for this book to be set in. So if you like paranormal fantasies and you're also into historical fiction, then this book might be for you. So those are 5 historical fiction recommendations that are set outside of World War II. If you have any recommendations for non-World War II historical fiction, leave them in the comments section below. I am always looking for more recommendations. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a candle emoji in the comments section below. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!